up with a small talk. Fast car with the brakes off. We don't need to see that far. Yeah, I see you're a hot thing. I know I'm an option. It ain't gonna break my heart.
We can make a plan instead of talking. We could check the vibe up in the room. Just saying I'm not one to just talk, babe. So tell me what we gonna do. You wanna pull up with your friends and then come over. Cause I don't feel like sending one more text. Come over.
No plans on the weekend. Sounds good with some more than you trying to hit the town. What you in the mood for? Just chill at the dance floor. You tell me if you're down.
We can make a plan instead of talking. We could check the vibe up in the room. Just saying I'm not one to just talk, babe. So tell me.
So today was a good day. I think we made some progress on the 944 Turbo. Went down to work with Dennis at the shop and started the car first off, just to see what was going on. It didn't sound great, but the big issue was that in starting it, it would rev to 3,500, 4,000 RPM. Could control it a little bit with the boost, I'm sorry, not the boost, the lean rich fuel knob, which is a nice feature to have. But we couldn't figure out why it was running so fast. Thought it might be an air leak in the car at first. Air getting into the manifold and past the throttle closure. So we checked all of that and the throttle was closed, the butterfly was fine, there was no extraneous air getting in, we don't think. So it should have just been idling, but that wasn't what was happening. We checked, for any kind of air leaks, put the car down, and we're scratching our head as to what else it could be. So I hopped in the car and I started to familiarize myself with the SDS controller. Found the controller in the glove box, took it out, started up the car, went through the menu, went through a lot of settings. It's actually not a bad system. It's fairly impressive. It's got a lot of settings in there for the amount of fuel, for given air and RPM, and different amounts of fuel for temperatures, and when it runs the fans. There's a lot of settings in there that I'll have to familiarize myself with. But ultimately, it looked like there was an error coming up, that it was not recognizing a magnet. Now, the only magnet that I can tell on the car is the Hall effect magnet, which is on the crank, which is fairly critical, unfortunately, because that's how the engine management system would know what RPM the car is running at. It's a bit of a minor miracle that the car started and ran at all, because apparently the ECU had no idea what the RPM was. So it was doing something, anything, but not necessarily anything intelligent, because it didn't have the information to know what to do intelligently. Given that fact, we need to diagnose the Hall effect magnet more. It could be just that the magnet sensor pickup is not aligned properly for where the magnet is on the crank pulley. That is a great possibility, because my engine builder probably had no specs, nothing to work with in terms of how to set that up, just did it by eye. And that's certainly understandable given the conditions. But we were able to find some basic specs on how to set that up, so we'll double check that, make sure that that's good. We'll also check the wiring and make sure that there's some sort of signal coming from this Hall effect sensor, such that the engine could be getting some information if it's set up properly. So that's basically checking the sensor, checking the wire, making sure the wiring harness is pulling through signals. And if it's that simple, that it's really just the alignment of the sensor, then that'll be a huge weight off of my mind. The Engine management system may be fine, may just need to be retuned, and we can move on to that step. So that would be the best of all worlds. And even if it's a wiring issue or something like that, we can probably get a new sensor if we need to. It's not going to be a huge issue. So that's a big relief, honestly, and hopefully exactly what we needed to know. We'll see. From there, it can hopefully just get retuned, and we can figure out what the right settings are for all of those types of parameters, and I'll have a working 944 turbo again.